Hello, everybody. This is Chef Katsudo. I'll be with you guys for back of the house section for HTM4305. So mainly I will be addressing some of the kitchen related topics. So anything from safety, sanitation to menu planning, cost control, things like that. Okay. So for this first session, I know that we were supposed to be in the kitchen face to face, but because of our situation right now, we are in our virtual kitchen right now. So I still hope to meet you guys in person sometimes later, but let's go ahead and get going. All right. Okay, so today, for the first session, I want to talk briefly about the kitchen safety. Okay. All right. Okay, so as I mentioned, so the first session is going to be about hygiene and safety, but we're going to focus more on the safety side first. Okay. Our second video is going to be more about the food safety and hygiene. Okay, so safety concerns in F&B industry, we actually have three major safety issues. So one would be fire, second one would be chemical, and then last but not least, that would be food safety. Okay. So for fire safety, as you can imagine, working in the restaurant, or I don't know if any of you have worked in a restaurant before, you have to work with fire, right? You have to work with fire to cook the food. So you have to be aware of all the dangers that's associated with working with fire. Okay. And if you are not careful, you could injure yourself, you could cause damage to your facility, or you could even hurt somebody else. Okay? Things like the grease traps and dirty ducts, okay? Those two things. So those would be something that you can minimize the risk by making sure that you clean and stay organized. So grease traps would be something that would catch the dirty grease from the equipment or maybe near the hood vents. If you leave it for a few days or even a week, the built-up grease actually can catch fire. Okay? The dirty ducts, you as an employee, probably even if you work in the kitchen, you may not have to clean the ducts yourself. But as a manager, you have to actually get somebody to come and clean the ducts. Okay? Also, working in the restaurant, you'll have flammable items quite often. Okay, so you have to work with things like butane canister or maybe Starnos. Looks like that. The butane canister can be used to finish the food items like creme brulee to give that charred effect, right? The Starnos can be used mainly for the hotel or banquet department to keep the food warm. Okay. Now, if you actually have those items, you want to make sure to keep them away from all the heat and the fire source. Okay? If not, those things can actually catch fire or even worse, it can explode. Okay? The next one, faulty electrical cores and wiring. So that is, once again, as a kitchen employee or a regular employee, you may not deal with the electrical cords, but you have to communicate with your maintenance department to make sure that everything is okay. Okay, and you also want to communicate well with your stewarding department if you have one to make sure that everything is clean and organized. Okay? So those can minimize the risk of fire hazards. Okay, and also. For taking the safety measures for the fire related hazards. okay, you have to know how to put out different types of fire. Okay? So just because it's a fire doesn't mean it's all the same. Okay, so you have in the kitchen, things can catch fire when you're cooking. That could be grease fire, but also in some other instances, your clothing could catch fire, or your paper towel, napkins, things like that could catch fire. And those different types of fire needs different ways to put them out. Okay, and in some rare occasions, you could also start a fire by chemical fire, right? Putting two different types of chemicals together, and that may actually start a fire. Okay. The second point is never carry or move oil containers when oil is hot or on fire. Okay. I actually have seen this personally. An intern in the kitchen saw fire on the stove, and the instinct was to just pick it up and try to move away from the fire. But the problem is that when you are carrying something that's already on fire, the chance of injury or even spreading the fire is high. Okay? We're going to actually watch a video on how to, well, different types of fire and how to put them out safely. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch that now.
Oh my God!
This guy is trying to make apples flambé for his wife. Watch as he pours the flaming brandy into a hot pan. Very quickly, he's got a disaster on his hands. Nutley, New Jersey Fire Captain David Hamilton says you should never, ever transfer flaming alcohol from one pan to another.
When you go to pour that, the flame is still going to want to come up. So as he's pouring, the flame is still coming out of the pan and going up, even though the liquid's pouring down.
YouTube is loaded with other frightening videos of kitchen cooking catastrophes.
Holy
Cooking with oil can lead to grease fires, which are particularly dangerous. Can you believe this sudden burst of flames is the result of water being thrown on a grease fire? We're cooking and grease catches fire like this. What do we do?
Worst thing you could do, throw water on it. Here, throw the water on it, watch what happens.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
The greases will float on top of the water goes in, splashes it everywhere, makes a much bigger mess, much bigger fire.
So, what's the proper way of putting out a grease fire?
Easiest thing, put the lid right on top of it.
In the case of a small fire, you can also use baking soda. Oh, wow. But the safest and most effective way to put out a grease fire is with a fire extinguisher. And Captain Hamilton says, when using a fire extinguisher, the word to remember is pass.
You would pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze, and sweep.
Whatever you do, remember, when it comes to grease fires, water is definitely not the way to go. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so as you saw in the video, you should never throw water on grease fire, right? So that's the point right here. So when you do encounter a situation where you do have fire on the stove, the easiest and the best thing to do, if you can, is to put the cover on, okay? Or you can try to smother it by using baking soda. Okay? And that point we already discussed. You want to make sure that you want to keep your kitchen clean and organized, and make sure to empty grease traps. Okay? And wherever you go to work, you have to know and understand the different fire safety protocol procedures that you have. Okay? Everywhere has a different process, quite similar, but you have to know, you have to ask. Okay? You have to say, hey, what are the steps, that you have to take when there's a fire? Okay? And on the same token, you have to know where fire alarms are located and also where the fire extinguishers are. Okay? And if you do catch fire, let's hope never happen, but you need to stop, don't run around. You need to stop drop on the floor and roll. Okay, and hopefully other people can put a cover on and try to put the fire out. Okay, and also, as you saw in the video, always aim at the bottom or the roots of the fire. Don't try to do from the top. The top doesn't really do too much. So that's the tip of using the fire extinguisher. Okay, once again, I hope you'll never have to use it, but it is good to know. It's one of those good to know information that we hope that you don't have to use. Okay. We'll briefly go over a little bit of chemical safety. For you guys, you may not be using that many different types of chemicals, but in a restaurant or even F&B industry or hotels, we do have to use these items to clean. Okay? And things like the soaps and detergents, those can be quite mild, but some people still could get allergic reactions to their skin. And in some other instances, when we do use things like drain cleaners, oven cleaners, or degreasers, those can be quite strong. So when you get those on your skin, it could actually burn your skin, chemical burn. Okay? So that when you use them, you want to use latex gloves, but there are some people that's allergic to latex gloves or the latex. So for those people, they could actually irritate their skin and have itchy skins. Okay? So if we do go into the kitchen in the future, if anybody is allergic to latex, just let us know. Okay? All right. For the chemical safety, you want to make sure to read the label. Okay, so understand what you're using and how to use it. Okay, there is something called MSDS, okay, right here. That's a material safety data sheet that basically lists out all the chemicals that you use in the operation and how to use them. And because we are working with food, you want to use the least toxic cleaning products, okay, possible. Okay. And then whenever possible, also use any kind of personal protective equipment, so like gloves or goggles and things like that. And after you remove the gloves, just because you wore the gloves does not mean that it did not get on your skin. Okay. So you want to make sure that you wash your hand after. And whatever you do, never mix chlorine and ammonia products together. Okay, this can actually create a toxic gas and you could choke. Okay, so never mix chlorine, bleach, or ammonia, or the products that contain ammonia. Okay? And also, the major thing is that never use chemical if you are not sure how to use it. Okay, make sure to read the instruction or the direction, but when in doubt, don't use it. And the best thing you can do is you can ask. Okay, so this should be it for the food safety. Back. The kitchen safety, sorry. So hopefully this was nice and short. I want to keep all the videos short and sweet. So I'll try to make the next video, which is going to be addressing more about the kitchen safety in terms of food.